Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, my first guest, Brian O'Sullivan, has already enjoyed the sweet taste of success with Cadbury's, and he is now scaling similar heights as the Chief Executive of Fulfil Nutrition. Brian will be discussing Fulfil Nutrition's recent deal with Hersheys and what this will mean for the company from a growth perspective. But first, you have impressive credentials when it comes to food businesses. So perhaps you can tell us about your time with Mondelez Ireland.
Good morning, Karl. Great to be with you. Yeah, I mean, Mondelez is a fantastic company. I joined the company originally through the Cadbury business in 2000, and then Cadbury was bought by Kraft Foods, and then it eventually became Mondelez. And, you know, while there was a huge amount of learning through that 17 years with Mondelez, the things I'd really call out that still resonate today is one, the real understanding of your product and what it delivers to consumers. It's so important to understand that connection between the product and consumers. And the second thing is that real passion for the brand.
And in terms of understanding the product and the consumer, how did you go about doing that in Mondelez?
Mondelez was, and Cadbury was very much a chocolate business, and you know, chocolate is a wonderful substance, and you know, if you mention chocolate to anybody at any age, you get a fantastic reaction. And it's really about understanding what is that reaction. There's a physical nature to it, but there's also an emotional nature to it. And it's that understanding allows you then to figure out, right, how do you take the brand on and continue to develop that bond with consumers.
Now, you mentioned the passion for the brand itself, and I presume you're talking about the internal passion within the staff and the employees, but also the consumers and also, of course, the stakeholders. So how did you go about developing that passion right across the spectrum?
Well, I think, you know, with a brand like Cadbury and indeed with Fulfil, it's very natural in that there's a real belief in what the brand is trying to do. You know, from a Fulfil perspective, it's very much about disrupting the market. It's a brand new brand. It's doing something which nobody has done before. And the people that are in the business are really energized by that and, you know, really breaking new ground. So it's a very exciting place to be. So it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy then that one thing leads to another and creates an energy in the business, which I don't think any individual could say it's down to them. It's really down to this whole energy across the whole team.
So what is Fulfil Nutrition all about?
So if I could explain it in a nutshell, Karl, what Fulfil has done is hit a sweet spot. And the sweet spot is that up to this point, healthy bars, you know, give some health benefits but don't taste great.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, exactly. And if you take tasty bars, which are traditional confectionery bars, they taste fantastic but don't have any health benefits. And what Fulfil has done is hit this sweet spot in the middle of delivering, you know, fantastic nutritional benefits of high protein, low sugar, 9 vitamins, but in a taste that makes it enjoyable to eat. And that really is the secret to its success.
And what was your process for getting the taste test right?
Well, initially, I joined the business in mid-2017, so a lot of work had happened already at that stage. So there was a lot of hard work working with R&D developers to work on that taste. Now, since the middle of 17, and we've accelerated that work. So I think the bars we've produced in the last 12 months and introduced to the market are now over 60% of sales. So we've improved the taste profile a huge amount in a very short period of time.
But of course the confectionery space is dominated by very large players. So how is Fulfil going to develop its brand against such big competitors?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, in Ireland now, in snack bars, so these are single-serve bars, Fulfil is now the second biggest brand next to Cadbury Dairy Milk. It's already of a scale which is quite incredible. And I think, you know, as we look out at it, our objective and our goal is to be number one, both here in Ireland and outside of Ireland. So, you know, what's already achieved gives you the belief and the understanding that actually it is possible. And now it's a question of now make it happen.
And Brian, outside of Ireland, how is the Fulfil brand performing?
In the UK now, we're just on our second year of launch and we're number 17 already. Our aim next year is to be in the top 10, which will be, you know, potentially moving some household names like Bounty or Twirl out of the top 10 in order for Fulfil to achieve that. So that's our very close-in goal for the UK market. We've doubled the business this year in Australia. So we launched last year. There are two big retailers there. Coles, we had already got into, and we're doing very well. And now we've just got listings in Woolworths, the second biggest retailer. So, that's great growth potential in Australia. In the Netherlands, we're now in Albert Heijn. Again, great progress there. We're one of their best-selling healthy bars, which shows that it's not just in Ireland, the UK, or even an Australian thing. This has as much resonance in continental Europe as anywhere else. So again, huge potential.
And Brian, how much emphasis are you placing on new product development, and how extensive is the Fulfil range now?
At one point, we had taken our range up to about 15 flavours. What we've done now very quickly in the last 9 months is we're targeting 10 flavours. And our objective with those 10 flavours is to make every one of them the best tasting experience you could have against that flavour type. So, as I mentioned, our recent 4 introductions now account for 60% of the business. We have 7 improvements coming on 7 other bars, which will bring them up to the same high level of standard of taste. And we'll have that introduced between here now and the end of March next year.
And talk to me about the deal with Hersheys and how this opportunity arose to have such a high-profile company investing in your business.
Because we're a high-growth company, we're always talking to the market, and we'll always need new investment to fuel that growth. And somewhere along the road, Hershey had heard about Fulfil and got interested in the business. And as the conversations developed, they really saw what we see, which is that this is a brand today which has consumer sales in the region of 80 to 100 million euro, but actually this is a much bigger potential, and it can travel not just in Europe but outside of Europe. So I think for 2 things really. One is the investment was very welcome, and we'll use that to further the growth plans of the company. But secondly, such a big company buying into an Irish company is a great endorsement of what we've done already and what our future plans are.
And what will this deal mean in terms of new growth opportunities for Fulfil?
I think the key thing and the very close end piece is to fuel the growth in the markets I've described. So Ireland, the UK, Australia, Belgium, the Netherlands, and so on. So that's the initial benefit from the investment. I think the second big benefit is it creates a relationship between Fulfil and Hershey, which this is just potentially the first step in that relationship. And there are other areas I would hope that it's a long-term relationship that we can explore other ways to work together to the mutual benefit of both companies. But it's early days. This is just the first step.
Now, of course, over the last number of years, there has been huge growth in both vitamin and protein bars. But what do you see as the emerging trends in that space over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think, health benefits is key. It's protein are in our bars today, but that will continue to evolve as people become more educated in health and seek out information. And I think, providing healthier products, not necessarily always just protein, is going to be an ongoing trend for as far as we can see in the future. The key thing, which Fulfil brings to that is it mustn't compromise on taste.
I was in the US recently, and one thing that I noticed in that market is lots of confectionery-based products are now being infused with cannabis. How far away do you see that from something that you'll be investing in for the overseas market?
Yeah, no, I see, CBD oil now starting to come into beverages and snack products. The big issue on it is it doesn't taste good. And, any of those products that you'll have tasted in the US, there's a real issue around getting it to be an enjoyable experience. So it's a very functional ingredient at the moment. And I think it's something, as technology changes and as things, we'll keep an eye on it and, see is it a fad or is that something that has a long-term benefit?
And Brian, for anyone listening this morning that might be interested in going out and starting a food-based business and investing in building a brand, what advice have you got for them in that respect?
The critical thing for me, which a lot of startup companies miss in their planning, is unless you have a route to market secured, unless you can get that product in front of consumers, it doesn't matter how good it is, and it doesn't matter what benefits it brings to consumers. So I would really encourage people early on in the process, as you're thinking about starting a new food brand, how are you going to get this to market? How are you going to get it in front of consumers? We've been very lucky with our partners in Richmond Marketing, that they're a well-established business in Ireland with relationships with all the key customers and so on. Without that, you could have any brand, any fantastic product, but you just won't get success without that route to market.
I remember being on a course with Enterprise Ireland a number of years ago, and there was a point made by the lecturer on the day to say that it's easy to appoint a distributor, but it's very, very hard to get them working for you. What advice have you got for food business owners that are on the journey to appointing a distributor? What should they look for? What criteria should they have in place for them? And then secondly, when the distributor does accept the product, how do you actually get them operating and actively selling it?
It's a really good point, because a partnership with a good distributor doesn't guarantee success. I think, what I would look for, apart from very operational or financial strength of a distributor, once you get beyond that point, I think the question is the distributor excited about getting their hands on your brand? Can you see that excitement in the people? If you have the people excited about it, the next challenge is not to think that just by putting it in there, it will sell. You need to keep that engagement, and you need to keep, build a really strong relationship between the brand owner and that distributor. And I think that in many ways has been the key to our success, is that we have a really strong relationship between ourselves and our distributor partners.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Brian O'Sullivan, the Chief Executive of Fulfil Nutrition, and it's exciting to watch this new brand excel against giants in the confectionery space.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
South